The best way to introduce perfectionism is for me simply to share my experience with it. But I promise not to make it all about me or to share my life story. I've learned from a lifetime of experience as well as the research that there are three basic characteristics that define perfectionism. One is very foundational, being right. For so long, I was convinced there was a right way to do everything, and I had to discover what it was about everything. I equated right with high standards, and I wanted to achieve them, which meant I needed to improve. I needed to do my best. I needed to be better. I needed to be the best. And this fueled a desire also to be right. And you guessed it, about everything. Whether it was an argument with someone, or my worldview, or the result of every single decision I made, right down to every grocery item. Was it the best price? Was it the most ethical brand? Was it the healthiest? And on it goes. Okay, now when I say this out loud, it sounds ridiculous and exhausting. So you can see the pressure and stress that perfectionist beliefs create, not to mention the impossibility of it all. And then there's all the illogical assumptions and the flawed reasoning that these beliefs rest upon. Okay, so that's the first characteristic. The second one is the approval of others. So logically, if there is a right way and I discover it and I achieve it, then I imagine that others are going to acknowledge that readily. I expected that other people would accept my choices. And I even imagined that somehow they would shower accolades upon me, because wouldn't everybody agree on what's perfect? Okay, so on top of the pressure to find the right way and to achieve perfection, I've layered on this other pressure to seek other people's approval, to meet their expectations, to please them, to somehow earn their approval and their inclusion and their acceptance. Yikes! You can really see how this is setting yourself up for failure. Okay, which leads to the third point. So the first one is there's a right way. The second one is that we know that you've got to get other people's approval. And the third is being wrong. So while I'm seeking to find this narrow right way and to earn other people's approval, I'm terrified of being wrong. And there are so many ways to be wrong. I dreaded mistakes. I hated criticism and greatly feared it. And let's just don't even talk about the possibility of failure. So I couldn't fail, I couldn't make mistakes, and I didn't want to be criticized. So the only thing left then is to do everything right the first time. Whoa! Interestingly, it was that fear of failure that fueled my procrastination. I could get paralyzed when I didn't know what to do. And I could see that mistakes were looming and that criticism was around the corner. And I could imagine all the details of what the criticism would be. And the probability that I was going to produce something inferior or just average was very, very real. And of course, this just fuels the possibility of your fears coming true. All right. Those are the 3 points: the right way, others' approval, and the fear of failure. Now, at this point, you might be even questioning my sanity. Does this woman have any logical reasoning skills? Has she ever managed to even get out of the bed? Well, I know that none of this is logic. And I think I've known that all of my life. But you probably know that human beings are very capable of embracing behavior that's not logical. And that's part of the tricky thing about our brains. So yes, I know at a conscious level, none of this is logical, but it gets revealed in the behavior and it still is very, very real. and it produces these unpleasant emotions. So perfectionist beliefs create stress, frustration, anxiety, self-doubt, hyper self-criticism, overwhelm, fear. You get it. So this collection of negative emotions that result from perfectionist beliefs are what I call inner chaos. And that's kind of the dark side. But hang on. There's an upside. Not everything was negative. My perfectionism drove me to set high standards and to work hard and to achieve and to strive and to improve and to really be compelled to serve others and to want the world to be a better place. I'll share an example. I didn't go to college after high school. And when I decided to go, I had a lot of hurdles to overcome because I didn't have the necessary preparation. Long story short, it took me 11 years to get my undergraduate degree. But at the end of it, I graduated with honors from an honors college, and I was truly transformed by that education. I went on to get a master's and a PhD in history in half the time, and I had a career in higher ed as a history professor. And then I became a tenured professor, I published a book, I got teaching awards. Those are all pretty awesome things that came about from my drive, which was courtesy of perfectionism. So let me wrap this up and make it most relevant to you. Perfectionism is a collection of beliefs that are commonly held, and they're a byproduct of being human. These beliefs are deeply entangled in complicated ways with our human conditioning and this survival function in our human brains. I am not the only person who has these beliefs. And a lifetime of experience and a lot of insights from others' research have taught me that the many ways this shows up is in a wide spectrum of the population. For some people, these beliefs never get embedded in their psyche, and they're not bothered by them. Lucky people. But on the other hand, some people, it makes them great achievers. They do amazing things, although perhaps they experience a lot of stress along the way. And then, sadly, for some people, perfectionist beliefs really limit them. They become obstacles to accomplishing what they're capable of. And they live a life filled with a lot of frustration. And then there's everything in between on that spectrum. But you don't need to take a test to know if perfectionism has affected you negatively. You don't even need to embrace the label perfectionist, which I didn't for a long time because I mistakenly assumed that perfectionists were perfect. Of course, I've long since learned that it's those of us who are most acutely aware of our imperfection that suffer the most from these beliefs. And beliefs is the key to understanding perfectionism. These beliefs are often not at our conscious awareness, but they show up in all of their contradictions in our behavior. If you can relate to perfectionist beliefs, if you've experienced these negative emotional consequences of inner chaos, then I hope that you will start a journey towards defanging perfectionism. I'm not sure that you ever really overcome perfectionists. I think it's a part of who we are. But I absolutely know from my experience and others that you can tame that inner chaos and mitigate the more negative effects and enhance the positive aspects and achieve more. I'm Janet Hudson, and I am a coach, and I work with people to tame their inner chaos. You can find me at tametheinnerchaos.com. Check it out, learn more, or watch some of my other videos. Thanks.